Are you struggling with splines? Do they feel random, broken, or impossible to control? Then this video is for you. Hey virtual landscape architect, let's make splines behave, finally. When I first started with splines as a modding beginner, it was a really cumbersome process. I did not really understand what I was doing, which made everything really slow. And multiple times I even brought the Giants editor to crash. Then I found out that there is one thing about splines which makes all the difference once you get the hang of it. Today will be a quick one. If you ask me if I can make a detailed video how to use splines, and since I'm filming today anyway for the procedural placement video, I thought I'd just make a quick in-between video out of it. Today you will learn how to place a spline, delete and edit spline points, add more spline points in a standard and in a superfast version, which different spline types exist, how splines can be used in the game. So let's dive right into it. What is a spline? A spline is not a 3D object. It's only a line with control points. You can think of it as a path which can be used to control other things. Here I am on a 2K map which I flattened out, which I just use for testing. We can create a new spline by going to Create and Spline. Then we don't see anything because it has been generated at the origin. So we press Ctrl-B and click with the left mouse button to bring it to our place where we are. And you see here, this is the spline. By default, the spline has 3 edit points. You can see the S point as a start, then one in the middle, and the E for the end. The direction of a spline does matter if you are trying to control like directional things with it, for example like traffic. If you want to loop through the control points of each spline, you can use the arrow keys. So once you have the spline selected, press the right arrow to go to the starting point. And then you can continue using the right arrow to loop through it. You can also go backwards if you use the left arrow. If you select the spline and then use the left arrow, you can go backwards. So what do we do if we want to add a new control point? We move to the last control point of the spline and then press the Insert key on your keyboard. This will add a new control point. If that Insert key doesn't work for you, you can check it in your Preferences under Shortcuts, then scroll down to where it says Component. And here I can see Component Insert is set to Insert, but I defined additionally an I for myself because sometimes I'm working on my laptop and there I don't have an Insert key, so I'm using the I instead. So after pressing the Insert button, you have that new control point, which you can then move around, like you are just used to with a gizmo. Notice for the gizmos that you don't have the rotation controls because you cannot rotate spline control points. You can also use Ctrl-B for placement on the surface. Let me put that up. And then I press Ctrl-B. And this will place it on the ground again. I can also move it around as long as I hold down the left mouse button before releasing it. So I have just shown you how to use Ctrl-B plus left click for a control point, and I've also told you to use Insert to add a new point. Combining these two methods is where the real magic happens. Then you can do this. So how did I do this? Let me explain. First you go to the end point of your spline. This can either be the last existing point or a point which you just added. Then press Ctrl-B. And then click and hold the left mouse button so that you can drag this point around. And while still holding down the mouse button, you press Insert again. And then you move your mouse and you still hold the mouse button down. Press I again. And so forth. So as long as you keep that mouse button down, it will continue to place new control points. And when you release the mouse button, it will stop. So this is how you add new control points to your spline in a super fast way. And this is the really speedy version of creating splines. It requires a bit memorizing the right order of the key presses at the beginning, but that will quickly go into your muscle memory, and then you simply do it without worrying about it anymore. And it saves you tons of time. Finally, we have some more tips and tricks about splines. Don't spam your control points like I just did over here. The best spline you can get is the one with as less control points as possible, but with just enough points to get the shape that you want. Second thing is, don't rotate splines. You are able to rotate a spline like this, but you should not do it, because doing it messes up some other things in the background. If you use that spline for AI traffic or something, that can mess it up a lot. So here we can see that I do now have a rotation on it, and to get rid of it you can freeze the transformations on that spline. So right click on it and then choose Freeze Transformations, and you can remove all the buttons except the rotate one and click Apply, and then it will reset the rotation to 0. And if there were any problems before, you can get rid of him that way. The third additional tip is different types of splines. Here under the Attributes menu of the spline, in the Shape section, I can see spline type. By default, the spline type is cubic, but you can also change it to linear. What linear does is that it changes the spline to just linear lines. Let me get rid of the foliage here for a moment so that we can see that better. So this is the cubic spline, and it just has straight lines between the points. If I set it back to cubic, we see, that's the fourth point, that we have 2 control points for each point of the spline. We have these red ones and we have some blue ones next to them. The blue ones are the handles. So if you move along the spline, you generally are on the blue points, and these are the handles. And if I move these around, you see that the spline changes accordingly. It controls the curvature of the spline. I can also move it that way to make the curvature more extreme. I can even cause issues like overlap if I overdo it. So if your spline behaves strangely like this one, you can be sure that there is some overlap with the blue points. If you click carefully, you can also change the editing to the red points. If you click on the red point, this will become active, and then if you move along the points, you are steering the red points. And I can also change these, but you can also see that the blue points move with it. It's a bit hard to see here. The easiest way to get rid of these problems like this is removing the control point. Remember that I said earlier that you should have as less points as possible. So for this spline, all of these points wouldn't be necessary. I could get rid of most of them and still have the shape that I want. For example, I could go to this one and just change the curvature of this spline. And even if I have like 1 point less, I can still have the curvature in a way which I want. You see that? So always try to use as less points as you can in your spline. So now we created a spline and we edited it, but what do we use a spline for? I will not go into detail about it right now, but here are some examples of where we use splines. You can use a spline to shape the terrain, to make it flat, in order to prepare it for a road, for example. The AI traffic uses splines, also both the cars and also the pedestrians. You can paint textures along a spline. That could be a road underground or something else. You can place objects like fences or trees along that spline. You can export a spline and use it for a road to build in Blender, for example. I built an automation for myself in Blender which creates roads for me based on an exported spline from the Giants editor. Or you can also use it to create fields. Here I created a script for myself which creates the polygon points for a field from a spline which I placed down. That's it already for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this was helpful in any way. If you learned something new today, please support my channel by subscribing. This will keep me motivated to create more videos like this. And if you want a specific video about one of the use cases for the splines, please let me know in the comments. Please click here for my latest video or here for a related one. See you next time.